friends, welcome to Grace My Space. Today we are tackling this fireplace. I am really excited about this project. This fireplace is the central point of the entire home. It is the statement maker. It's the first thing you see when you come in the door. It's the thing that you see from every room in the house, and it is currently not my fave. Now before I go any further, y'all, don't come at me about painting over real brick, because it's already been painted. The previous owner had this painted a cream color, and then for some reason she decided to paint it back to looking like brick. So it's actually got red paint everywhere with either like a brown glaze or a brown paint over top to give it some dimension. She did a beautiful job. It fooled me for quite some time. I thought it was real brick. And then I took a closer look and I realized that it had been painted over already. So I am going to change it to something that's more subdued, a little bit more my style, and I'm going to share some tips along the way. Voila, we're done. Just kidding. First, we're going to do a little synopsis of what this project is going to entail, and then I'm going to show you the process. There are 5 basic steps that are going to work for the majority of situations, and those steps are cleaning the brick very thoroughly, vacuuming up all of the debris, taping the surrounding areas that you want to protect from getting paint, priming with a masonry primer, very important, and then finally painting. If you're painting directly onto raw brick, it doesn't have whitewash, lime wash, paint, or anything else on top of it as a sealer, then priming it is going to be the most vital step that you are not going to miss, in addition to a really good cleaning. In my situation, the brick was already painted and he had a primer on it, and so I painted directly over the existing paint rather than priming first, so you won't see me do that very important step. Make sure and check out the blog post where I have even more details on how to paint brick fireplaces. You are potentially looking at a time commitment of anywhere from a couple of hours to days. Mine is a 4-sided fireplace with 20-foot ceilings, and so it did take me several days to accomplish with help, probably over 15 hours of work. But if you have a smaller, more standard size fireplace, you could knock it out in an afternoon. Depending on the nooks and crannies that your brick has, you will need a variety of different size tools. Things like small paintbrushes to get into really tight spaces, foam brushes for vertical areas, even rollers if you want to try and cover a larger distance with that, and of course, a sturdy paintbrush. It's really important to sample your paint color on your brick. I am using 2 different samples of paint I had on hand, leftover paint from other projects, because I'm trying to do this as budget friendly as possible. And so we're gonna see if I like either of these, and hopefully I do. Step 1 to painting your brick is going to be to clean it first. If you have a real fireplace with burning logs and you have soot, you have to get all that soot off of your brick, because it will not take the paint. The paint will not adhere to that. Similarly, if you have a really grimy brick, you need to wash it. TSP is a great cleaning agent that will help get all that off. If you have a cleaner brick like mine that's just kind of dusty, you can use a vacuum and a scrub brush. I would traditionally tell you to use a shop vac, but I don't have one today, so regular old vacuum it is. I also have to somehow get this down. Oh, suckers are heavy. Just for reference, I can't even show you the bottom. All right, my sample is feeling pretty good over here, so I decided to do a bigger test swatch against the wall color just to make sure, because no one wants to paint their fireplace twice. But while that's drying, let's do a real quick recap of what is the best type of paint to use on interior brick. Now this is going to be different for everybody's situation, just depending on what's already on your brick. Once you've primed, you can use your basic interior paint that is acrylic latex based, and then you can use whatever color you want, easy to get mixed at a paint store. Many people recommend a semi-gloss or a gloss for cleanability. However, I don't want my fireplace to be shiny. So you do have to take sheen into consideration as well. I would not do a flat paint on a fireplace because that will be very hard to clean and it will be hard to maintain. But I'm gonna use a satin paint if this works out once it's dry, and I think that that will be just as easy to clean with less sheen than a gloss. Now since brick is very porous, number one, you primed already, right? So that means that you got into all those little nooks and crannies with your brush as much as possible. And when you paint, you're gonna do the same thing. You're gonna kind of dab to get in like so. You're gonna dab it. And that will help you fill all those cracks so that your color is solid. But since you have to kind of glob and dab, I really like this brush. I've talked about it before. I'll link it in the description because it has a short handle, an angle to the bristles, and it is a stiffer brush, which will allow you to get into all those nooks a little bit easier. The nature of brick means that you will have some drips just because of all the ridges and the way that the paint pools within the brick pores. And so you're gonna wanna make sure, like I'm painting down here, I'm gonna wanna look up, make sure I'm catching any drips that are coming so that you have a really nice, smooth application. Now, if you need to paint the firebox itself inside the fireplace or doors, you do need a high heat paint. You can't just use acrylic on the inside of a firebox. That will not hold up to the heat. An artist paintbrush is gonna be necessary to get way down in the grooves. So a variety of sizes will help you too. Right about now is feeling like a good time to assess some progress. And still a long way to go. All right, it's day 3 of the painting project. It's taken me 5 hours to paint this side and this side, and so I had to call in the big guns. We're gonna get to work. After trying out a few different methods, I found that it was easiest and most efficient to roll onto the face of the brick with a paint roller, and then come back and fill in all of the mortar lines with a brush and be able to catch all of those drips that are formed. Alternatively, you could use a paint sprayer if you have access. It just requires a lot more prep, and it's a personal preference. Now I get the pleasure of using this little teeny brush to get into all these cracks and get out all the debris. If you have a wire brush that's the right size for your space, that's also a great idea. Just make sure that you wear a mask because wire brushes are gonna kick up a ton of debris and you don't wanna breathe that in. Paint the insides of this and just using a foam brush, which would not work to do the entire fireplace. The texture on the brick would eat this foam right up. But for these inside corners, it does the trick because it's thin and flat, and I can use all the sides to get where I need to. See this red? We want to cover that all up. Potentially the best part of any painting project, taking the tape off. It feels so good to have this project done. It was a beast. 4-sided fireplaces, they're not kidding around. My favorite part about this entire project is that it was completely free. I used all leftover materials from previous projects, leftover paint, leftover brushes, everything I already had on hand, completely free, and look at the difference that this made in this room. It brightened it up so much. Before, it felt kind of like an anchor in the room, and that's not the look that I was going for. I really wanted to brighten up the space and have it be a beautiful focal point that was calming and just kind of put you at ease when you walk in the door, and I think that this did the trick. I ended up mixing a variety of different paints to make this lighter gray, and I lightly brushed it over the dark gray that was existing to give it a little bit more dimension and make it feel a little bit more like stone. While I won't say that it's my permanent fix, it is much better than the brown that was there before. This is kind of in my mind right now, phase 1 of the Fireplace Makeover project. there might be more coming. But for now, I'm leaving it as it is, and we're gonna move on to other areas of the home. I hope you enjoyed following along with the first major project in this cottage makeover. Make sure and hit that subscribe button and ring the bell for notifications if you wanna continue to follow along with the renovations here at the Haven Cottage.